There is a question in the old poems that ends a contest without blood, not because it is clever, not because it is difficult, but because it is private. A question shaped like a closed hand. What did Odin whisper into Baldur's ear before the funeral fire took him? No one answers it. Not the giants, not the gods, not the poems that love to name every river, every hall, every beast that gnaws at roots in the dark. That is where our story begins, with the sound of the sea at night, and an old hall that smells of smoke and wet wool, and a man who never arrives as himself. Because Odin does not walk into places like this carrying his true name. He walks in wearing a mask, and the world changes its behavior around masks. Picture a winter road hard with frost. A traveler moves through it with no torch. The wind bites the seams of his cloak. His boots are heavy with mud that has frozen into the leather. In his sleeve, close to the skin, he carries nothing you could steal. A question. He comes to a hall that does not belong to men. The hall belongs to a giant, Vafthrudnir, the wise weaver of answers. A mind like old stone. A memory like deep water. The kind of being who can tell you how the world was shaped and speak it like inventory. This came first, then that, then the next thing that never changes. In the Old North, wisdom is not gentle. Wisdom is a kind of weapon, and Odin wants to test it. Or perhaps, more honestly, Odin wants to prove that his own hunger is still sharper than anything that lives. He steps inside. Warmth hits him first, the low red breathing of embers. Smoke rides the rafters like a second ceiling. Somewhere a chain sways faintly in a draught. The hall is quiet in that way. Only powerful rooms are quiet. As if even sound is careful. A cup is offered, a seat, a glance. And Odin gives a name that is not his. He calls himself Gungrad, a traveller, a guest, a man with nothing but words. But words are enough. In these stories, words are almost always enough. Vafthrudnir's gaze is heavy, not unkind, just old. The giant has seen too many faces to trust one. He listens the way mountains listen, unmoved. Odin does not ask for mercy. He asks for a game, a contest, a duel of knowing. In the north, this is how killing sometimes begins, with questions asked politely. The terms are simple and therefore dangerous. If the traveller loses, he dies. If the giant loses, he loses something that is harder to name. The hall holds its breath, and the questions begin. They start like a slow drum. What runs in the heavens? What moves beneath the earth? What is the name of the river that separates this world from another? What are the halls called, and the fields, and the wolves that wait for the last hour? The giant answers. He answers with confidence, with the clean certainty of a mind that has never had to doubt itself. His voice is like wood splitting in cold, and Odin keeps going. He asks about the old things, the first things, the kind of knowledge that was never meant for human mouths, because humans do not last long enough to hold it comfortably. The giant answers again, and with each answer something in the hall shifts. Not the fire, not the smoke, the air. Because it becomes clear that the traveller is not guessing. He is not fishing for scraps. He is moving through knowledge like a man moving through familiar rooms in the dark, counting doors, touching corners, remembering what lies behind them. Vafthrudnir begins to narrow his eyes. In a contest of wisdom, the first sign of defeat is not silence, it is recognition. Odin asks about fates, about endings, about the things even gods pretend not to think about until it is too late. And the giant answers because the giant is proud. because the giant believes that knowing the end of the world is proof that he cannot be touched by it. But Odin's questions have a different rhythm now. They are no longer a test, they are a blade turning slowly in the hand. He asks, and the answer lands, and the room grows colder. And then Odin asks something else, something that does not belong to maps or halls or beasts, a question that belongs to grief, a question that belongs to a father. He says, "What did Odin whisper into Baldur's ear before the pyre?" The hall changes, not because the giant cannot speak. He can speak. He knows the names of rivers that no longer exist. He knows the shape of the sky before the sky was stable. He knows the taste of the first salt. But this question is different. This question is a locked door, because no one was meant to hear that whisper except Balder, and the man who spoke it. It is not a riddle you solve. It is a secret you either possess or you do not. And in that moment, Vafthrudnir understands what he is facing. He understands that this is not a traveler. This is not Gagnrad. This is the one-eyed god wearing a name like a cloak. And the giant's pride collapses into something like anger, or fear, or both. In some versions he speaks the truth plainly. Only Odin himself knows what Odin whispered, which means the contest is over, not with a triumphant cry, not with a flourish, but with the sickening quiet of a realized trap, because Odin did not win by being smarter. He won by bringing something no one else could bring, a private moment with the dead. Now, for a second, we step away from the hall, away from the duel, away from the smoke and the stare. We go to the dream that haunts the north, Balder. Balder is the bright one, the beloved, the good son, the one that stories treat like light, that should have been permanent. And yet the poems are cruel in the way reality is cruel. He dies anyway, not in a grand war, not in a fair fight. He dies because of a small weakness turned into a spear. Mistletoe, the thing that was overlooked, the thing no one bothered to bind into an oath. His death is not just tragedy, it is a crack that spreads through the world. So the gods prepare his funeral, a ship, a fire, a ceremony vast enough to match the wound. And at some point, near the edge of flame, near the point where words become useless, Odin leans close. He whispers into his son's ear, not loudly, not for the hall, for Balder alone. Maybe it is comfort, maybe it is instruction, maybe it is a promise that the world will not forget him. Or maybe it is something colder, a thing Balder must carry into the dark like a sealed message. We do not know, and the poems do not tell us. They stop there on purpose. Because the North understands something modern people forget. Not every mystery is meant to be solved. Some mysteries are meant to be carried. Back in the hall, the fire seems smaller, the smoke heavier. The chain still sways. Odin stands. In some tellings, the traveller reveals himself at last. In others, he simply leaves, as if he had come only to prove what he already knew. And that is the real occult shape of this story. Because the magic here is not spells. It is not glowing runes or thunder. It is power through intimacy. Power through knowing one thing that no one else can know. Odin's question is a knife because it is human. It is father and son. It is deathbed and breath. It is a whisper that cannot be audited or repeated or tested. The giant loses because he cannot enter that moment. No wisdom can force its way into it. No ancient memory can reverse it. It belongs to the dead, and to the one who spoke. which leaves us with a final, lingering thought, the kind that follows you out into the cold. If Odin's greatest victory in that hall came from a secret with Balder, what does that say about Odin, about what he values? He will pay any price for knowledge. He will sacrifice comfort, friendship, even peace. He will hang on a tree for 9 nights just to take runes from the deep. But here, the key is not suffering. It is love, or something shaped like love. A private word. And whether that word was gentle or cruel, whether it was hope or command, whether it was grief or strategy, we will never know. Because the poems, for once, close their mouth. They let the whisper remain a whisper. And in the north, that is often where the strongest magic lives. Not in what is spoken, but in what is withheld. So if you listen closely, in the sound of smoke and sea wind, you might hear it too. Not the answer, just the shape of a secret still burning.